Hello and welcome to the second video on getting to know Blender, and particularly around virtual worlds. So what we're going to be doing in this one is we're going to be cutting out and making a 3D stencil of a logo. We could do it with a logo, or we could do it with any object. As long as it's a silhouette based thing, we can pretty much cut out anything. Let's start by deleting the cube that we get, because we don't need that. And to delete the cube, we press the delete key on the keyboard and it will just disappear. We now need to add something. We need to add the logo or the silhouette image that we're going to cut out. And we do that by pressing Shift and A. Shift and A for add. We then go down to Image and Image as a plane. If you don't have this option, it's more than likely that you haven't downloaded the latest version of Blender, which is free from their website, and you're able to download that without any hassles. If it does pop up with an error message or anything that says your PC is unsure, press More, and then you will see that you're able to download that item. Press Image as plane. We then select the image that we wish to cut out. In this case, we're going to select this logo. The logo will import, but we can't see any text on the logo. And the reason for that is because to save memory, the Blender will make it so that your computer basically makes everything low polygon, low res, low visuals to keep it running so it doesn't crash on you. To change that so we can actually see the text, we can go up here. There is a few different options up here. The only three you're really interested in is wireframe, which is if you wanted to see through the object, if you were trying to click on something and you couldn't see it. Solid mode, which is so you can see the object, and then the very last one, which is texture mode. By pressing that, you're able to now see the texture that you've imported. Let's first make it so that we're able to work on this object. It's best to work on an object flat, and I mean flat to the board. You'll see the grid, so you may make it flat to the grid. How do we do that? We use the rotate tool. Rotate, R for rotate, R for rotate. Press R and then you can use the constraints, either X, Y or Z. In this case we're going to do Y. Now instead of just moving it like this and hoping that we get it flat by moving the mouse, we can actually tell it how many degrees we want to move it by, and in this case it's 90. So I'm going to type 90, so 90 degrees, and you're going to see that it has rotated it 90 degrees and it's done it anti-clockwise. If we wanted to go clockwise, all we do is press the minus key to flip it around the other way. So it's now minus 90 degrees. If I'm happy with that, you press the left mouse button to confirm. We now have an object. To zoom into that object, I'm going to press the number pad delete key so I can see it like this. And then I'm going to use the mouse wheel to just rotate it towards the top so I have a nice view. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, and remember, if you need to move it to the left or the right, you can do that just by holding the shift key and then just dragging it with the mouse wheel pushed down, and that will give you the ability to move it to the left or to the right. We're going to use another tool now, and that other tool is the knife tool. That is K. K for knife. K for knife. So we press K. First we're going to deselect the object by selecting nowhere. Make sure that we're in object mode, and we're going to press K for knife. I'm totally wrong. You need to be in edit mode. So we select to edit mode. We then press away from the object and we press K for knife. See, even I still make mistakes. Now what we need to do is to select the points. How we do this is very easy. We just literally pick a point that we want to cut out, press the left mouse button, drag it up, and keep doing this until we have selected all of the areas we would like to select. This is going to be very rough, so you could take your time, and again, by pressing that delete key, you can zoom in, or you could zoom in with the wheel, and you could move with this to get some real detail by zooming in, and you're able to do that. When you're happy, when you have gone around and selected everything, you're going to see that the thing still is here. It's like a never-ending thing that doesn't want to go away. Once you've got back to the start and you're happy, you press the enter key. It's very important that you press that enter key, because if you don't press that enter key and you do this, what you're going to find is that it just won't lock the image, and you will then be in a world of pain. So make sure that once you get back to the start, you press the enter key, just to say, yes, I'm happy with that. Again, K for knife, and we're going to cut this out. I always find that if you're cutting out quick like this, it's best to cut out just inside the object, just to give you a little bit of space, because it's better to get the colour of the object than it is to get that nasty black colour. Now you might see that sometimes it connects to another line. Don't worry about it, it just means there's already a line been built, so you can still connect to it, that's no problem at all. And again, we get back to the start, we press the left mouse button to click it here, but we still got the string. So what do? We press enter, and that selects that area. K for knife, select the points. Again, I'm doing this really rough. K, once you get back to the start, we still got the string, enter. K for knife again, and then we just select all these points until we get to the end. You see how this yellow one here is here? Don't worry about it, just push through and select where you want to select. Again, when you're coming back, you'll see it tries to lock to that. Just ignore it, just carry on up. And again, just ignore it and carry on to where you want it to be. If you find that it's doing this and it's like selecting there and you don't want it to, remember, if you zoom in, and the more you zoom in, the more control you'll have on the object. So if you want to be detailed, you can zoom in, remember holding shift to go up and down, and then you can put it right there. The closer you go, the more detail it'll allow you to move the item. So we get back to the start, and we still got the string, and we press enter. Okay, so now we've selected all of the parts that we want to cut out. We need to delete the parts that we don't want. How do we do that? Well, very easily. First thing we're going to do is click away from the object to deselect everything. If I wanted to select everything, you can do that very quickly with the shortcut A. A for all, and that selects everything. There used to be where you pressed A again and it deselected everything, but they've took that away. So now you have to click away from the object to make it so it deselects. So let's select up here the face tool, and we're going to select all the areas that we want to delete. So all these areas that are coloured in black. Make sure we get them all, and we're going to press the delete key. Now you're going to notice when you press the delete key this time, instead of it just deleting, it's going to ask you what you want to delete. And in this case, we want to delete the faces. So we do that. Now we're left with just the text. What we need to do now is we want to make this text extruded. So we want to make it 3D. There's a few ways of doing that, and I'm going to show you all of them. The good thing about this, when you're cutting out from a texture, is that the texture file that you've used, you're able to then use that texture file to put onto the object as the texture. Because you've cut it out in this way, the object thinks that the texture is related to that particular object. so you don't have to stress about having to make a texture map. You can literally just bring in the texture you've used to cut out. So now I've selected all of these faces like this in face select mode. Again, to select more than one, you hold down the shift key and then select another one, and that will allow you to select multiple objects and let go of shift when you're done. We're going to do the first way. The first way is by pressing E for extrude. We're going to want to make it so that the view can see upwards like this, just again by holding the mouse wheel and then moving the mouse wheel. E for extrude, and then Z to make sure that we're going up. If you see the blue line, you're going to go up. If you don't see the blue line, you're going to have weird controls like this. So we're going to go Z, and we're going to go up, and then when we're happy with how thick it is, we're going to just press that mouse wheel, and then we've got that 3D object like that. It might look a bit weird to you because at the moment it's a PNG and it's hollow, but don't worry about that. If you are worried that the texture might be transparent and it might not be working right, there is a little shortcut that we can do. And that is to select everything. So what you do is you select away, you press A to select everything, and then you press Shift and N. N for normals. N for normal. And what happens is a little thing comes down here saying recalculate normals. You should always do that with whatever object you're doing, because it flips all the normals to the top. So if you're ever in a virtual world and you notice that your object's for some reason transparent in a place and you can't work out why, because on the object it isn't, it's because the texture's on the inside, not on the outside. And to make that, you just press Shift plus N, and you want to do that at the end of your project every single time. So I now know all my normals are on the outside and the texture will show for me. Right, so now we're happy with it. This was one way that we could do that particular lift. Let's have a look at another way. So I'm just pressing Ctrl Z to take me back to this stage where I'm here. We can go into object mode, and another thing that we're able to do is here down the side we have something called a modifier. Modifiers are fantastic tools. They allow us to do things that we can't really do very quickly, very fast. And the one we're going to look at is solidify. So by pressing add modifier here, we're then able to go and look through these until we find generate and solidify. What solidify does is it makes it into a solid object. So if you're using planes which are flat and you want to make them into a solid square, that's what this tool does. And what we can do is by looking at the side here, you'll see the thickness. We can just click and scroll our mouse wheel until we get the desired thickness we want. And that will give us that thickness that we need for our object. And when we're happy with that, you press the little arrow key and you press apply. Now, if I'm in edit mode, you will not see the ability to do some of these things. So you must make sure that it's in object mode before you press the little arrow and apply. You can also press Ctrl A, but don't worry about that, it gets confusing. So press apply. Now, that is the way the object is. It's now 3D. If we want to save this and bring this into Second Life, we can do that by pressing File, and we can go to Export, and we save it as a Collada DAE. This is the file type that Second Life likes. If you were to want to bring that into a virtual world, say for example VR chat, you would save it as an FBX, because that is the type of file format that likes. You can also use an OBJ, which is a file format that most files like, most virtual files like, for things like printing an object. If you were to do 3D printing, that's a really good choice. So there's really only three you'll ever use: Collada, OBX, and an FBJ. I do find that STLs also print quite well, so that's another one you'd use. So for printing 3D, STL, OBJ. For Second Life, Collada. And for VR chat or metaverse, you would want FBX. Right, and then the object saved, you would then take that into your world, import it, and it would be ready. If you wanted to add a nice little feature, we could, of course, put our beautiful bevel on that we learned from our last video. And how we can do that is just by selecting the edges on the top. And we can do that quicker if we hold Shift and Alt. It will select everything that's like it. So we can then select all of these and it will select everything that's like it. It's just a quicker way of selecting the edges. And again, you're able to do that. You can do it with the face tool as well. You could just select all the faces if you really wanted to, like this. And Control B, and you're going to find that it cuts into the edge like this. Now, if I don't want these two lines, I can deselect them just by selecting them like that. Again, all I'm doing is holding that Shift tool and deselecting them. So Shift, Control B for bevel, dragging it out, and then I can roll that mouse wheel to create a really nice beveled effect on my object at the top there, if I wanted to do that. So that's a little bonus tip for you. If you wanted to make something kind of cool on the top, you're able to do that. Okay, that's this video. This is how to cut out a logo or a silhouette and have it in a virtual environment. And then the next thing we're going to have a look at is texturing this object and having multiple textures on an object. I'll see you in the next video.